the benefit of scale, and it's got the benefit of cheap labour. So in the West, a lot of people are saying, okay, so how do we do this? Where do we earn our money from? Okay. We can't manufacture steel or cars or metal or anything like that any longer. We have to find another solution. And this has become a big question in Europe, trying to move Europe forward in the context of challenges from India, how to do it. The question is, what are our schools doing? So I'm getting to schools now, okay. Are our schools creating the leaders of tomorrow, or are they creating the workers of tomorrow? And in the UK, and in Europe generally, we've very clearly come to the conclusion that we no longer wish to produce workers. We don't want to produce people who stand in factories and manufacture things. We can't. We have to produce the leaders. And leaders means the leaders in politics, the leaders in culture, the leaders in literature, the leaders in rock music, the leaders in tourism, the leaders in marketing, hotels, all kinds of industries which were not considered particularly important even 10 years ago. Heavyweight industry was the thing, no longer. And the same thing is happening here in India. Tourism is a big boom business. Hotel management is a boom business. Airlines, stewardesses on airlines, it's all big stuff. And it's not the old Indian dream of, I want my son to be an engineer, or I want my son to be a lawyer, preferably by the age of 12. Okay? It's not that dream any longer. There was a time when becoming an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor, or, if you're really that bad, a dentist, that was the ticket. That would get you away to wealth. It might even get you a green card or whatever you want. But that way it's finished. It's not there any longer. Not really. The new industries are tourism, they're Bollywood, they're acting. Many Indian parents would say, I don't want my son to be an actor. But hey, Amitabh Bachchan has got a very big house in Juhu, you know? It's very big. There's a lot of money in these kinds of industries now. There's a lot of money in tourism. There's a lot of money in, I have a friend who's a boy I taught back in '79. You know what he does? He runs a river rafting company. He runs a camp up at Rishikesh, and he takes corporate foreigners on river rafting things. You know, and he's doing what he likes. He's doing what he loves. And he has a great big house in Gurgaon as well, by the way. It's a very profitable business. So all of these kinds of things are changing. I love this quote in India's swanky new sweatshops. You know what they're talking about? Hindustan. They were talking about the BPO industry. They were saying, aren't BPOs just very smart, air-conditioned, swanky sweatshops for admittedly educated graduate people? But basically, it's an interesting concept. My favourite all-time quote, Senator Simpson of Wyoming said, education, if you have it, nothing else matters. If you haven't, nothing else matters. Education is at the centre of progress all over the world. Most Indians are only keen to grasp that. Education in this country is seen as the way forward, and that remains the same. But how does the education itself change? Okay? One thing I noticed when I came back to India in 2000 was I wanted to teach, my subject is maths, I'm a maths teacher, I was. I wanted to teach just one section, a little bit of maths, to kind of keep in touch with the kids. So I said, okay, give me class 6 or something, you know, I'll teach one section. And I was given a textbook. And you know, this was in February 2000. It was the same textbook. handed in February 1979. It was the same NCERT textbook. Nothing had changed. And that made me start to think about what's going on here. Because around me, remember, the Gurgaon new highway, this lovely road that we've just come in on from Ahmedabad, the new swanky airports, the Microsoft buildings, the swanky cars, the Mercedes and the Toyotas, and everything in India has changed. Except the schools. The schools are exactly the same. And you know how kids in my school, in Sanar, were expected to learn? There's this wonderful concept in India. It's called mugging. Come across that one? Mugging. You have to sit there and sweat over some textbooks and memorize everything. You know, education in the rest of the world has changed. Mugging is no longer necessary. You know why? Because Mr. Gates has given us this machine here. You don't need to mug anyone. You know, you ask me any question you want about anything. You give me 30 seconds to get my wireless modem out and I can find you the answer. I'll Google it. And I'm 50, I'm slow, you know. Your kids will Google everything. You know, at hyper speed. They no longer need to memorize anything. Okay? See this? Pen. Okay? I don't carry one because I have to carry that thing. But you know, I do have a pen. You know what I use it for? About twice a week, I sign a check. And that's it. That is all the writing I do. And I'm a 50-year-old professional man. I should be doing a lot of writing, you would think. But I don't. I'm using this. Were you like me? Did you spend hundreds of hours in school learning how to handwrite? You know, 2 blue lines and a red one in the middle, and the capital letters go to the top, and the little ones just go. Did you spend hundreds of hours learning how to write? I did. And I sign a check twice a week. And I won't even be doing that because you'll stick your thumb on it or put your eye to it or something. You know, there'll be some digital technology there fairly soon. And this will be redundant. Are you teaching your kids handwriting in school? Do you think it's important? Why? Your kids are never going to write. See this? They'll be in museums by the time your kids get into the workforce. At some point in history, we used chisels and hammers, yeah, to write in ancient Egypt or somewhere like that. And at some point, somebody said, this is really bad. Let's invent quill pens or something, or the pencil, or the biro. And throughout history, we've chucked things away. We're just about to throw this away. But I'll bet you that you still think it's important that your kids learn how to, yeah. Now, let's be very careful. I'm not saying your kids, my kids, should not learn how to write. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is it worth